Dick Kane here. In this video, I would like to illustrate how you can use my scripts and its capacity for presets and parameters to efficiently make a pleasing arrangement of images that can be effectively zoomed in by changing the size of one of the elements of the array, and the choice of the element depends on how you set this up. So we're going to do all this using my 6 pictures here, which are arranged as though you had just imported them into InDesign, except for the fact that I have actually given them names beforehand to simplify the process of what we're going to do to reduce that step. To illustrate that there are names there, I will click on this picture of Helen and show you by double-clicking on set identifier that it is named Helen. So if I just click cancel, we're out of there. So I have pictures here of my 3 daughters, Susan, Karen, and Helen, in increasing age order, which my vision is we'll put those in an angle like this with Susan, Karen, Helen going up in age, and then we'll have pictures of this log cabin where I photographed this many years ago down in Illinois with the door and then the interior, I think it's called inside, and then the artifact down here in the corner. So let's do that. Now the first thing we'll do, we'll put Helen up in the corner. I've defined page margins like I did in another one of these videos, so we won't show you that here, but we'll talk about putting her in the corner. Now there are 2 ways to put things into the corner, actually, because one of them is to use the relationship set for an item, and the other one is to say move to corner. If I say move to corner, then that allows me to put something in the corner but not to change its size. So if I double click on this, you'll see that we get what position do you want and what's the offset. So we're going to put it exactly in the corner, so the offsets will be 0. The position codes correspond exactly to the positions of the keys in the numeric keypad. So if you want to put Helen in the upper right corner, if we want Helen to go up here in the upper right corner, wherever that is, up in here somewhere, then we want to put the upper right corner number of the keypad into here, which is 9. So if I type 9 in here and say OK, then Helen moves to the corner, and I like that arrangement. You notice in these scripts, whenever you do something changes the layout in any way, you get a question of whether you approve this or not, whether you accept this or not. If you say OK, then you're going forward from there. If you say cancel, then you're back to where things were before you started this transaction with the script that got you here. So that may involve multiple undos, which are invisible and don't happen. Okay, so we're going to click and accept this arrangement so that we've got Helen in the corner in whatever size she might be. Now we want to put Karen here next to Helen. So in order to do that, we have to be able to talk about both of them. So we have to talk about relationship set for an item. And so we get this large dialog box, which has 4 major areas. There's an area here where if there were presets about these relationships, there would be a drop-down list up here with some text about that. The second part is about the location, where you want the location of this object that's selected to be. The third part is about the size, and the fourth part is if you like what you've specified here, you can put a name in here, and that will basically define a new preset. Now what we're really trying to do here is relate Karen to Helen, so the location here will be based on the margins of an item, and the item is named Helen. So the drop-down lists here are alphabetical, independent of the of the capitalization of the entry. So Helen is based on is the basis for the position, and we're going to put the upper right corner. So we'll do this in the upper right corner of this will be next to the upper left corner of that one. So the upper left corner here, and we'll have the offset be based on basically the size of Helen. So we'll say the size of the item, moves back a little bit so you can see, and we'll choose the size of the item named Helen. So remember back here when I was in a fixed amount, it was in picas, but when I change it to of the item named Helen, then we're in percents. Okay, now the horizontal offset and vertical offset will be by default 0, but what we want to do is put them as a variable thing. So let's put in here, you could put in here a number, but you can also put in here the name of a parameter, which can be any sequence of characters excluding double quotes. So this is a horizontal offset, so we'll just call it, for simplicity, H off, so I don't have to type too much. And then if we tab over, we've got the vertical offset, so we'll call that V off. So we can remember what they mean. And then the item size will be based on, we'll match the heights of the first item above. So it'll be matching the height of Helen and 100%. Now if this works, then we're going to want to use the same relationship to get Susan in relation to Karen. So we want to save this as a preset. So we'll give this as a preset. And what we're doing now is we are going down to the left. So let's call it left down. Whatever mnemonic is good for you works just fine here. So we say left down. Now we hope we've got all this filled in properly. We can say OK. And what happens? Well, the scripts say, you've got a parameter here, and I don't know its value, so I can't compute yet. Tell me a value. So let's put in a value. Let's say -10. Oh, wrong symbol. Okay, -10. So this will make the vertical offset be 10% of the height of Helen. So we'll say OK to this, and we'll find out we've got the horizontal one also, which needs a value. So we'll put in -10. Now I should point out that while I'm doing this, that you can later reset these values, because you can go to the script over here called parameter set value, and these parameters will now show on the drop-down list, and you can set the value, which we'll do later. So if we say OK to this, now the scripts know all the numbers that are necessary to do the calculation, and so it computes the arrangement and asks for permission to keep that or to back off all the things that it may have done by, if you could click cancel here. We like this arrangement, so we click OK, then we will also define the preset. So therefore we can move right away to Susan, we can double click Susan, we can double click relationships, and now we've got a preset which is left down, and it fills in all of this stuff. And it's a percentage of the size of the item named Helen, and it's based on the margins of the picture named Karen, which was the one in the middle, and it's based on the height will be based on the height, and so on. So we can just say OK. I'm sorry, it didn't click. OK. And there we are, and we've placed Susan. See how fast that was? Because we used presets. Now we can take the doorway and again set the relationships, and now it's not the preset because we're doing a different thing. We're going underneath, which is not replicated, not needed anywhere else, but based on the margins of the item named Susan, because she's the one on the left. The top of this item will be next to the bottom of Susan, bottom here. And we want the offset to be, again, based on a percentage of the size of the item named Helen, because that's the basis of the size of everything. And the horizontal offset will be 0 because we want this to be right underneath, but the vertical offset will be our friend V off. So V off here is our offset. The size of this item will be based again on the height of the first item named above, like before. And this is not, we don't want a preset for this because we're not going to reuse this anywhere right now. So we'll just say OK. And picture moves up, and we like that, so we'll say OK. Now we want to put the interior next to that, so we'll double-click the interior, double-click the relationships. Again, we got a preset up here, but that's not what we want. The new location will be based on the margins of the item named. Now what are we doing? We're putting the inside next to the doorway, so we're based on front door, I called it. And the top of this item, no, the upper left corner of this will be next to the upper right corner. This is a kind of mirror image of what we did in the upper part of this thing. And the offset will be based, again, on the size of the item named Helen, because we're going to make everything depend on the size of Helen. And the horizontal offset is what? You'd say H off, but no, because we're going in the wrong direction. We're going to the right now instead of to the left. So this needs a minus sign. So this is minus H off. And tab over here, and the vertical thing is still, we're going down, so it's V off. And the size, again, we want the size, we want the height to be based on the height, same height as the first image named above. And we want this as a preset, and so this is going to the right and down, so we'll call it right down here. And this should work, so we'll just say OK and see if it doesn't do the right thing, which it did. And so here is the picture, and if we say OK, we now have a preset also. Notice that this overlaps the previous image that was in this location. These scripts do not check for these kinds of overlaps. Your eyes have to do that. The only exception is in the case where you try to put one object between two objects, and if it gets too big to fit, you will get a message about it, and the scripts will not perform that operation for you. Okay, now the last thing is to get the artifact, so we'll select the artifact here, and we will select the relationships, and we will select the preset, and so we're going right and down, and so we get all of this, and so we're based on the item named inside, and the percentage of the size of the item named Helen, and we have the H off and V off, and we're on the first size, and so we're all good to go, and we just say yes, and there it is, and so OK, and so now we have our little V-shaped arrangement, and we can now save that as a piece of history here, so we can make a snapshot, save a snapshot. Oh, we didn't select an item. We have to select an item because the scripts need to know which spread you're dealing with. So we select an item. Now we ask to save it. We'll call this snap 1. First snapshot. Say enter. Now let's play with this. We can go back up here and change a parameter value. So if we double click on this, we get a drop down list of the parameters. So let's change, for example, the horizontal offset, and you see you get its current value right here. And now let's change that. Let's for example double it. So we'll just make this be minus 20 and say OK. Now this doesn't do anything. Why not? Because setting the parameter value does not cause recomputation. Recomputation only occurs under two conditions. We'll scroll a little bit here to see it. Sorry, we went too far. One of them is move to corner, and the other one is setting the relationships for an item. Those are the things which do computation. So if I select anything, go to the relationship set for an item, and just say OK, it will do a recalculation, and you see quickly everything moved out because we increased the H off the horizontal offset. So if we say OK to that, now we can go down and make another snapshot of this. So snapshot save, and this would be snap 2, just like so. So we got snap 2. Now we can go back to the parameters and set the value of the vertical one. So here we go. The vertical offset, it was minus 10. Let's make it be minus 15. We'll just not explode everything the same way. And so we'll just change the 0 to a 5 and say OK. And again, this doesn't compute, so we will get the relationship, say OK. And now the vertical offset increased, so we got this thing going down farther. And we can save that as a snapshot down here. And we can call that snap 3. And to illustrate the power, the fact that everything depended on Helen, we'll make Helen a little bit bigger, let's say. So I have to put the mic down for a second to hold the key. Hold on. I think we messed up. All right, let's undo that. Okay, so here's Helen bigger. And now if we do a recalculation of setting relationships and just say OK, then everything gets bigger and the proportions change. And so effectively you have zoomed. And so if we accept this arrangement, then we can also save this as a snapshot, and this can be snap 4. So in effect, what we've done here, we can show by the snapshots. So if we revert to the start snapshot, this is where we started. We had 6 images of diverse sizes and diverse positions, random positions from importing them. We can revert to snap 1. I'm sorry, I mistyped snap. Snap 1, so we get our little diagonal thing. We can revert to snap 2, which is by changing the horizontal spacing. We can revert to snap 3, which is showing with the vertical spacing changed. And we can revert back to the mistyped snap 4, this one, and say OK, and now we get the zoomed out version. So this video illustrates how you can use presets to quickly do repeated kinds of relationships, or you can save them because you like them for lots of general purpose, and you can have them available for use in other spreads, because those are saved at the document level. And you can see how we zoomed and set this whole thing up. And to be honest with you, if I'm not talking about all this and just doing it, I can do all of this setup in about 5 minutes. Of course, this video took a lot longer, but I hope this gets you thinking about all the possibilities that are here and all of the opportunities and the use of snapshots to show to your art director or whoever. And you can go to the URL at the bottom here at the end, where you can find a trial version in which all of these things work, but you can't save these revised versions, and you cannot save snapshots. I mean, you cannot revert to snapshots. You can say that you set up relationships. You can set up all these relationships, but you can't see these results until you buy the full version. But all of the specifications that you have created are saved inside the document. And so when you buy the full version, all you have to do is revert to setting relationships, saying OK, and then you will get something you can work with. So I hope this piques your interest. You will go download the trial version and read the documentation there and load it up and run it and enjoy it, and then buy the full version. Thank you for listening.